All right, so we're diving into some pretty heavy stuff today.
Okay.
AI and the future of work.
Yeah.
And the sources you sent are pretty wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how fast things are moving.
It seems like robots are coming for everybody's jobs now.
It really does.
Even the ones that we thought were safe.
Hmm.
Like we're talking 100% of HR and admin roles could be automated by the end of the year.
Yeah, and it used to be just like blue-collar jobs,
Right.
on the factory floor
Right.
that we're worried about being replaced by robots.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing AI that can do stuff that takes like complex decision-making,
Yeah.
even creativity, emotional intelligence.
So what happens when a huge chunk of the workforce, is potentially out of a job?
Right.
Well, the source material points to a potential solution, something called universal basic income.
UBI.
Or UBI, yeah.
Yeah, UBI has kind of been like a fringe concept for years.
Right.
But now it's becoming a lot more relevant because of all this. The idea is that everyone gets like a regular payment from the government no matter what.
Okay, so like whether you're working or not.
Exactly.
You get this. Everyone.
It sounds almost too good to be true, right?
I know, right.
Free money for everybody.
Free money.
But the sources really dig into how this could actually work,
Mm-hmm.
and it ties into a really surprising move by former President Trump
Yes.
that nobody expected.
In February, he signed this executive order that created a U.S. sovereign wealth fund.
A sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah, or SWF.
Okay, I'll admit SWFs are a bit of a mystery to me.
Yeah.
What exactly are they, and how could they even be connected to this whole UBI thing?
So basically an SWF, it's like a state-owned investment fund.
Okay.
So countries use them to invest extra revenue,
Okay.
often from like natural resources,
Right.
for long-term benefit.
Okay.
Like a good example is Norway's oil-funded SWF.
Norway's SWF.
Yeah, so last year it made $222 billion in profit.
Wow. Just last year.
That's a lot of money.
Imagine what a fund like that could do for the U.S.
Yeah, that is a ton of money.
Yeah.
So is the idea that this U.S. SWF could generate enough revenue to like fund UBI for the whole country?
Yeah. That's exactly what some experts are proposing.
Okay.
The source lays out this framework
Okay.
where the SWF invests in like AI and robotics companies.
Interesting.
So it's like owning a piece of the future,
Right.
of the automated future.
Okay.
It also talks about taxing industries that use a lot of automation.
So it's almost like we're not fearing the robot revolution, but we're embracing it and using it to our advantage.
Exactly.
Like taxing the robots to provide for the people they're replacing.
Yeah, in a way.
Okay.
The goal is to make sure that the wealth that comes from all this automation is shared with everybody,
Mm-hmm.
not just the people who own the robots.
Right, right. But how do we even make sure that it's managed fairly
That's a good question.
and transparently? We're talking about an enormous amount of money here
Absolutely.
and people's livelihoods.
And that's where blockchain comes in.
Blockchain.
Yeah.
Wait, isn't that the technology behind cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with UBI?
Well, it's not about the cryptocurrency itself.
Okay.
It's about the tech behind it.
Okay.
Blockchain offers this really decentralized and transparent platform
Mm-hmm.
for keeping track of transactions
Okay.
and managing these big funds.
Okay. So we're talking like instead of relying on banks or, traditional financial institutions,
Right.
we could have this massive SWF managed on a blockchain
Exactly.
with like every transaction
Yeah, transactions recorded.
recorded.
Publicly and permanently.
Okay. So that sounds pretty good for transparency.
Yeah, this level of transparency could really help with like concerns about corruption,
Right.
mismanagement,
Yeah.
which happen a lot with these big centralized funds.
Yep. Right. And it seems like it could really make it easier to get those UBI payments out to people.
Yeah.
You know?
No more red tape.
Exactly.
Directly to individuals.
Exactly. And it goes even further than that.
Oh, yeah?
Blockchain can like revolutionize how we govern.
Governance, you mean like voting and
Yeah.
decision-making?
Imagine a system where citizens could like directly vote on how the SWF is invested
Interesting.
or how UBI funds are used in their communities. Blockchain could make it way more participatory
Okay.
and democratic.
Yeah, that's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
But this all sounds very futuristic and theoretical.
Yeah.
Are there any real-world examples of this that suggest this could actually work?
That's a great question, and there is.
Okay.
Your source talks about the Alaska Permanent Fund dividend. It's been going on for decades.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. What is that?
So Alaska's Permanent Fund is kind of like an SWF,
Okay.
funded by oil revenue.
Every year, A chunk of the fund's profits are given directly to every resident of Alaska.
Really?
Last year, it was something like $1,300 a person.
So it's like a mini UBI,
Yeah,
but funded by oil instead of AI and robotics.
you could say that.
Okay.
It's a good example of how a shared resource can benefit all citizens.
And it's been going on for a while.
Yes, since 1982.
Okay. So it seems to be working.
Yeah, it has been pretty successful.
Oh, wouldn't switching over to like a nationwide UBI system in the US be like incredibly complex and disruptive?
It would be a huge undertaking,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay.
Lots of challenges.
Like what?
Logistical, economic.
Yeah.
Not to mention the political roadblocks.
Oh, yeah. What kind of political roadblocks are we talking about?
Well, for one thing, there's the question of whether the public would accept it.
Mm-hmm.
UBI is a pretty divisive issue.
Yeah, some people might see it as like a handout.
Exactly.
That discourages people from working.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Like if people knew they were going to get a guaranteed income, would they even want to work?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
People who support UBI say that a basic income would actually let people pursue more meaningful work.
Okay.
You know, start businesses,
Yeah.
invest in their education.
So instead of working just to survive,
Right.
you can work because you want to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Work becomes more about purpose and fulfillment,
Interesting.
less about just getting by.
But it seems like that would take a huge change in mindset
Oh, yeah,
for everybody,
absolutely.
for individuals and for society.
We'd have to rethink our whole relationship with work and leisure,
Mm-hmm.
the whole idea of a job.
Yeah, that's not going to happen overnight.
No, definitely not.
It's a lot to think about.
It really is.
On the one hand, we've got this potential wave of automation, that could totally change the workforce. And on the other, we've got this really radical idea of UBI,
Yeah.
possibly funded by an SWF and managed through blockchain.
Yeah,
That could completely change how we think about work and income.
Yeah, it's a really interesting intersection of like technology and social change.
Right.
And it brings up these really deep questions about like the future of society.
Like what happens if those predictions about automation actually happen?
Right.
What happens to all the people whose jobs are gone?
Exactly.
How do we make sure that everybody benefits from AI and robotics?
Yeah, these are questions we really can't ignore.
Yeah, for sure.
And UBI, even though it's controversial, it's making us have these conversations.
Right.
It's making us think about what kind of future we want.
Yeah, it's almost like we're having to redefine what it means to have a meaningful life, to like contribute to society. Like if work as we know it is going away, what takes its place?
That's the challenge, isn't it? To
Yeah.
imagine a society where like purpose and fulfillment aren't tied to a job,
Right.
where people can pursue their passions and
Yeah.
contribute in different ways.
But is this even possible?
Well, your sources say it's not just a fantasy. They talk about Alaska's permanent fund as proof that you can have these direct cash payments
Yeah.
funded by shared resources,
Okay.
and it can actually work.
So the Alaska model is like a small scale
Yeah,
demonstration of UBI.
kind of, yeah.
Okay. It's not perfect, but it's a real world example.
So maybe UBI isn't so crazy after all.
Maybe it's how we adapt to a future with more automation.
Yeah, where machines are doing more of the work.
Right.
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah. And the conversation about UBI goes beyond just like how to make it happen.
Okay, how's...
It makes us look at our values as a society.
What do you mean?
Well, if we're talking about giving everybody a basic income, no matter if they work or not,
Yeah.
we're saying that everyone has value.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone deserves some level of economic security.
It challenges how we usually think about worth.
Exactly.
Like how much money you make.
It's not about your productivity.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that every person has dignity.
That's a big idea.
It is.
Well, we've covered a lot today. We have.
AI automation, UBI, blockchain. It seems like things are changing really fast.
Yeah, we're on the edge of some really big changes.
And it's hard to know what's going to happen.
Definitely.
But having these discussions is really important.
Absolutely. It's how we shape the future.
So for our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep learning about these topics.
Yeah. Do your own research.
Look into UBI SWF's blockchain. Think about how it could affect your life.
And most importantly,
Yeah.
ask yourself,
Mm-hmm.
what would you do with a guaranteed basic income?
How would you spend your time?
What would you contribute to the world?
It's a really good question, and hopefully it'll make people think.
I hope so.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of work and universal basic income.